So, welcome everybody.
Thank
We're
you.
so happy that we have representatives of many years and parts of our life here today, including our children and some of their children. And we're very, very grateful, and our neighbors. And I'm telling everybody that if it weren't for Susan's freezer, we wouldn't have much of the food that we have today. So thank you, Susan. Heaven's wife could not be here. Here's a little something. So when we sent out this notice of this New York debut of Jules and Friends, this new combo, a lot of people responded by saying, what? What? Jules Harlow, renowned liturgist, renowned translator of Nobel laureate Shai Agnon, plays the clarinet. Yeah. Some of you guys from our Camp Vermont days, going back to
71.
71? 1970.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Remember. I knew of Jules with the clarinet.
I didn't know about the liturgy stuff.
Well, I just want to tell you, and you're going to hear, that is all a cover. That's all a cover. So how did this all start? When Jules Harlow was in high school in Sioux City, Iowa, where he was born, for those of you who may not know that, his high school music teacher handed him a clarinet. And he said, we'll teach you how to play the clarinet, and you'll be in the band. And that helped him. And
He meant this band.
did he know that high school
Mr.
teacher-
McGee.
Mr. McGee. And Jules told me stories about he had a band, and they played in roadhouses, which I don't even know what they are, but it sounds like it was a little bit shady to be playing in a roadhouse in Iowa. They did.
You were too well brought up for that.
I was brought up in Boston.
Like you said, too well, brother.
Proper Bostonian. And
Incidentally, the roadhouses were in Illinois, just across
is
the
that
border.
near Iowa?
Across the border.
It's all the middle, right?
It's outside of New York.
You know that New
That's West
Yorker,
End.
you know that New Yorker map, New York, California. So Jules started to dream about New York and the jazz scene and 52nd Street. And he wanted to get there. So he landed at 122nd Street, which is only 70 blocks north of 52nd Street. And he became a rabbinical student, which made everybody in Sioux City really happy, because they said, local boy is going to the seminary and he'll come back and he'll be our rabbi.
Right?
Right.
That
Yeah.
was my dream, actually.
That was true, but it was a little bit of a cover because he started taking field trips with his fellow students, like Yochanan Mavs and Joe Yerushalmi. Oh, we used to call him Joe Yerushalmi. Now he was Yosef him. And Dimitrevsky. And he took them on field trips to Jimmy Ryan. And they heard Lester
Young.
Thelonious
Monk.
all those people. And then it was even closer to go around the corner to the Apollo. And so there was a parallel education going on in the seminary. Talmud, Gemara, Chumash, and jazz. And then Jules decided, I have to be a really terrific student. In fact, I'll try to be the smartest one in the class. So the Rabbinical Assembly will invite me to stay in New York, and they'll ask me to write and translate his machzor and the siddur, whatever. I love the cover, because he was only 70 blocks from 52nd Street and around the corner from the Apollo. And that's what happened. And there he was. He stayed in New York. Well, yeah. And he did all the other stuff. Seriously, you wrote, you translated, you inspired people, you taught. That was serious. But it was that other side of Jules' life. And he was invited to be the chief rabbi of Sweden. I don't know if any of you know, but one of Jules' favorite foods is herring. Have you ever heard about herring in Sweden? And did you ever know that the jazz scene in Stockholm was amazing? So he said, okay, I'll be the chief rabbi of Sweden. And he continued to do that other stuff. He inspired, he taught, he led people on all kinds of journeys through their Judaism. And he played jazz in Stockholm. And while in Stockholm, he actually hooked up with the cultural attaché from Warsaw, who was the cultural attaché to Stockholm. And many of you know that we did an amazing, amazing, wonderful project, which was a youth dialogue. High school students from Sweden and high school students from Warsaw, Jewish and non-Jewish, and we brought them together, sometimes in Sweden, sometimes in Warsaw, and it was an amazing program, I have to admit. Did you know that there was like a legendary jazz pianist in Warsaw who heard about this rabbi who was coming? Now, his name starts with an S and has about 12 consonants after it, so we never could pronounce his name. And Jules played with him in a salon in Warsaw. And I'll show you the picture afterwards. And in Warsaw, they played with candelabras and actually candles with flames and all of that. But the real thing. But then, you know, I forgot to tell you that while he was at after he finished the seminary and he started doing the Sidurim and the Matzah, Camp Ramah thought he would be a real catch to have for the professor in residence of Camp Ramah. So he went to Camp Ramah. The first one was in Glen Spey. Where's Ilana? Ilana, what's the name of that guy in the Library of Congress who headed up the Hebrew department?
Mike Grunberger. He's
Mike
no longer,
Grunberger.
he's no longer at
I
Library.
know,
Congress.
but he was there.
Yeah.
Michael
Grunberger.
Grunberger. When Ilana went to work in the Library of
He was
Congress in the American Folklife Department, he saw her name listed and he called her up. And he said, Ilana Harlow? She didn't even listen to the rest of the sentence. She said, yes, yes, yes. He said, if your father comes to visit you, please have him come to see me. And so it was. And we went down to see Michael Grunberg, and he said, I just want to tell you this. When I was a kitchen boy in Camp Ramah in Glen Spey, we kitchen boys said, you know, it's not fair. Rabbi Jules is teaching everybody during the day, but during the day we have to work. Would you please consider teaching us after we finish work, which is about 10 o'clock at night? And Jules said, absolutely, absolutely. So Michael Bloomberg always remembered that. But what he didn't know is this. After the kitchen boys had their class the first time, Walter the baker came out and sat at the piano and started to play. And Jules said, oh, I didn't know about this guy. He's fabulous. So he went up to Walter that first night and he said, Walter, I play clarinet. Could I please come and play with you sometime? Well, Walter actually gave him a proba. How do you say that? Like an interview. I don't know what you would say. There's no audition. Audition, thank you. This is my Yiddishist audition. But Walter said like this, well, for instance, Rabbi Jules, what would you play? So Jules said, well, how about Mother's Eyes?
Not to know.
Walter said, you know Mother's Eyes? I'll play with any white man who knows how to play Mother's Eyes. And in fact, they began to play together. So that has been transmitted to our impresario, piano player,
Pressure
David
is
Shapiro.
on.
No pressure at all.
No pressure.
So can I just say, as somebody who used to go in Glen Spey, we'd go at midnight to hear Jules and Walter together, yes. And it was one of the highlights of camp.
That was nice.
What about Torah?
That was also
That was
good.
it.
And,
He did Torah,
and
too?
if there's one thing Jules taught us, it was that it's all the same. It's call and response.
There you go.
Good memory.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. So, our impresario, piano player, wonderful piano player, David Shapiro. Our beautiful and talented vocalist, Naomi Cohen, are going to now treat us to a wonderful program. Naomi told me something which stuck with me, and that was about background music.
Oh, yes.
Say it.
Well, I learned this from Mike, is that he often says that jazz is America's favorite background music. So we were very insistent that we eat first, we sit, and then we listen, and then we can go back to eating.
And so, and we'll go back to eating afterwards, and if you're all good and you all pay attention, you'll get dessert. So.